All right, let's talk about that Wi-Fi video I posted. When did I publish it? July 5th, posted a video. It was titled, "Using Public Wi-Fi Can Be Risky." And it talked about public Wi-Fi and the risks of public Wi-Fi. And I got crucified. Of course, none of my videos go really popular quickly, and not to say that it got really popular. Like, we're sitting at 1,329 views, but that was like within like a day or two, and I never get that. Usually if I get any views on my videos, it's a very, very slow climb. Like just now I'm starting to see the fruits of my labor back from October. So for whatever reason, this one was more popular than what I'm used to, and I think it's because of the engagement, because of the hate that this video got was off the charts. Again, I'm not talking millions of views, millions of comments here, but look at the ratio. 32.1% like to dislike ratio, and tons of comments, some more constructive than others. Internet people can be. So I was reading the comments, I was looking at the video, and I thought about it long and hard. And I decided to mark it private, not because I was bothered about the negative comments. I feel like I can deal with negative comments, especially if they're just being rude for the sake of being rude, but I really felt I could have explained things a lot better. And I could have and should have ordered the video a little bit differently for obviously engagement reasons, but for people that, you know, just get kind of triggered off the first statement and don't watch it. I don't know actually if I can avoid that, but whatever. I just felt like I could have done better. So in this video, I'm gonna basically do the same thing. I'm gonna talk about, because all my points were true. I stand by wholeheartedly everything that I said. I should have just given some more examples and been a little bit more clear on some of the specifics. I'm gonna go through all the points that I talked about on that video, bring up some of the comments, address it, and show real world examples. So let's get into it. I broke it down into three main areas of Wi-Fi security. My big claim in the video was that public Wi-Fi specifically is still risky to use. I essentially dumbed the video down into three main areas that I want to talk about. So I talked about encryption, fake Wi-Fi networks, and then I gave a story, an anecdote, a personal story about how I actually hacked a public Wi-Fi, kind of accidentally. I started the video talking about encryption, basically HTTPS and SSL encryptions. SSL stands for Secure Socket Layer. Now, I don't want to make this a super technical video. I'm not going to, because it's boring and the vast majority of people don't care. But there's a basic level of technology that I need to explain here to get my point across about Wi-Fi security. Encryption is basically just replacing characters with other characters or strings of characters so that anybody looking at what you're doing online can't actually understand it unless they have the encryption key. So most browsers now will show a lock symbol at the top left, and you'll see the HTTPS. That means it's encrypted. So any information going back and forth can't just be seen, or it's not stored in plain text. You have to have the encryption key. Here's a really, really easy example of what encryption is. Say you want to write a secret message to your friend, but you don't want anyone else to read it. We're going to use a simple code where each letter of the alphabet is replaced by the one that actually comes after it. So if you want to write a message like, let's just use the word hello, for example. So if I want to write HELLO, if I turn the H into an I, the E becomes an F, both L's become M's, and the O becomes a P. If you're just going to read the encrypted message, it's going to be IFMMP, which is gibberish. But if I give you the encryption key, which tells you, hey, actually the secret code is I replaced it with the letter after, then you can roll that back and then you can quickly spell hello. So I started out the video talking about encryption and not to use websites that aren't encrypted, and I think that's where I lost most people, because most websites use encryption now. SSLs are free now basically, and most websites that you would be visiting have encryption. Absolutely 100% agree. And most browsers will actually pop up a warning saying, hey, don't proceed. This guy pointed it out. He didn't have to be such a dick about it, but he did point it out, and he is right. Let's use a real world example right now on what happens. So this is a website I have up called badssl.com, and it's a tool that people can use to basically mimic websites that have issues wrong with it. I can visit a website here that has an expired certificate. I can visit one that has a wrong host error, self-signed certificate, untrusted root, revoked certificate, a pinning test. There's all kinds of issues here that I can test and see what happens in the browser. So here's what happens. I'm using Microsoft Edge. This is on a Mac. We're going to go to the expired certificate website. your connection isn't private. So this is what happens if there's an issue with the SSL certificate, the encryption key, whatever. You're going to get an error that looks something very similar to this. Chrome has it, Mozilla has it, any modern browser, Safari, they have this. It's going to pop up. And to proceed to the website, you actually have to hit advanced and then continue to expired. And then here you can see the website. Let's try revoked. The leaf certificate for the site has been revoked. I didn't get a warning that time. Wait a minute. It doesn't actually pop up all the time. Let's try just a regular HTTP site. Oh, didn't give me an error. Hold on now. Let me try that on a different browser. Try it on Safari. So we'll go expired. Yep, not private, show details, view certificate, or you can visit the website. Okay, so that worked. Self-signed, yep, connection not private, working, wrong host. Okay, working pretty good. Let's try that pinning test. Oh, site is preloaded with a bad HPKP pin starting in Chrome 48. Okay, let's try just a regular HTTP site. Didn't give a warning every single time. Interesting. This is a really common issue when you're developing something like a product or an app. Let's just say you're developing an app. When you're testing that app, you have to account for edge cases. An edge case is something that really doesn't happen a lot. It's a weird situation. It's not something that you're going to deal with all the time, but it does happen. This is a perfect example of an edge case. It worked most of the time, but in specific situations, no, it didn't actually pop up an error for the HTTP site. You're not wrong in saying that most sites are encrypted. Absolutely, 100% agree with you. You're also not wrong in saying that the browser pops up the window most of the time to warn you that it's not encrypted, for sure. But clearly it doesn't every single time, and people have no idea. So back to my original message in the first video that I did when I started out saying, basically warning people, make sure that the website is encrypted. Well, make sure that the website's encrypted. Here's an actual example. There's no lock. It says not secure, but it's something you have to check for. It didn't pop up a warning. But just because it has an SSL encryption key doesn't mean it's not a fraudulent site. SSL encryption keys are free, or even if you want to pay for one, you can pay for one. Anyone can get one. There's no criteria. That doesn't mean it's safe. It just means that it's encrypted. Key takeaways here is still pay attention to whether it's encrypted or not, because the browser pop-up doesn't work all the time. And still don't trust sites that have the SSL encryption. Just because it has one doesn't mean it's safe, so just use your judgment. So before I talk about the next one, which is fake Wi-Fi networks, which is basically when you use your phone to create a Wi-Fi network. Everyone's probably done that at this point. You can actually use your phone to create your own Wi-Fi network that your buddies can connect to and use your internet connection. It's also called tethering. Before I get into that, I want to make a clear distinction between two things, which is absolutely an error I made on my last video. I need to clarify this. I need to clarify the difference between hacking and then just using free available tools to basically steal somebody's privacy or break down that wall of privacy you think you have. When I was talking about hacking into a network, hacking is kind of like a brute force, like you're finding a vulnerability and getting into the network somewhere that it shouldn't because something's broken and you can bypass some level of security. That's really what I'm talking about when I'm talking about hacking. But in a lot of these instances, I'm not actually talking about hacking. If you're connecting to a public Wi-Fi, you don't know who set up that Wi-Fi network. They could just have really high parental controls built right into the router, and they can see what sites you're viewing, among other information. This is seen all the time. I have it on my network. I can show you here. I can see what sites anyone are on at any given time. There's been stories that I've read of people actually catching their partners cheating because they can see what websites they're viewing on the actual router interface. If I'm going to ashleymadison.com or something like that, there's only one explanation. You can see how this goes. So that's not hacking into the network. There's no hacking going on. I'm just using tools that are readily available for anybody to break down that level of privacy. And when you're connecting to a public Wi-Fi, you don't know what is set up on the other end and what they can see. But anyway, back to my second point in the video was fake Wi-Fi networks. So this is called a evil twin attack. And basically, if I use the example Starbucks, let's use the example of a hotel, because this is a real world example. There's a hotel, let's just say it's the Hilton. I can go with my laptop, get a Hilton hotel room, and then make a Wi-Fi network that's going to my laptop called Hilton Wi-Fi. And if you're within range of my Wi-Fi signal and you want to log onto your hotel Wi-Fi, you go and you check and you'll see Hilton Wi-Fi. Looks legit. What this is actually doing is connecting to my computer. That's when you can get into a whole heap of trouble. When you connect to one of these Wi-Fi networks that are fake, there's a lot of vulnerabilities that can happen. There's things that are basically just a man-in-the-middle attack. So when all your information is going through my laptop, I can see what you're doing, which just breaks down privacy. There is still encryption on those websites. So in most cases, I wouldn't be able to decrypt things like your password if you're actually logging onto Facebook, for example. But I can still see some of your other data. One of the more realistic things I see happening is actually replacing URLs with phishing URLs. So if I set up a fake Wi-Fi network on my laptop that you connect to, and I see that you're trying to get to facebook.com, I can recognize that and send you to my own version of Facebook, which looks and acts like Facebook, but it's actually not. When you enter those credentials, it's actually going back to me. This is really effective because it looks identical to the page. You'll see this a lot when on like Kit Boga's videos when he's doing the scam baiting. When they're going through with the scammers, they actually have these websites that look like Bank of American websites, right? So they've created this website that looks like it, so they put their information in there and they steal their banking information. You can do that automatically if you have this man-in-the-middle approach where it says, hey, anytime they go to facebook.com, redirect to like Facebook with 2 Ks or whatever URL is, and it looks exactly like it. So when you put in your information, it's all going to me. Another type of example I'll give in this method of stealing people's information is packet sniffing. So you can use tools to actually see little packets of data going back and forth on the network. Even if they're encrypted, you can brute force it if the encryption is weak. Which brings me to another point I need to address, and that's WPA3. WPA3 is kind of the current Wi-Fi security protocol. It came out in 2018. It's the flagship internet security right now for Wi-Fi. However, and you may have experienced this setting up devices, some things still don't work with WPA3. WPA2 is still vastly more popular than WPA3. I tried to find some stats on this. I've seen wildly varying numbers. Some people are saying 60% of Wi-Fi is still WPA2. Some people are saying 30% of Wi-Fi is still WPA2. But let's call it 25%. I think that's safe to say. Not everyone has the new latest and greatest router, but if that's the case, actually, even if you connect to a Wi-Fi, this is a screenshot from my phone when I tried to connect to my buddy's Wi-Fi that had WPA2, they don't even consider it to be encrypted enough. So they'll actually give you a warning saying, hey, this isn't completely secure. So maybe don't do any banking on it. Maybe just check your Facebook. Another clarification I should have made and need to make now. This leads me into my next point perfectly. So WPA2 came out in 2004. In my previous video, I gave an example of when this is a 12-year-old example. I had a rooted Android phone. I went to Tim Hortons and I was able to install an app that could basically shut down the whole Wi-Fi. I could see what websites everyone was going to. I could shut it down. I could do all kinds of things. I could see all kinds of information going back and forth just from a rooted phone. And you don't have to be an expert to root an Android. You can follow a simple YouTube video and do it. Some people in the comments got mad saying I used an outdated example. I agree with you. It is a bit of an old example for sure 12 years ago, but most Wi-Fi is still WPA2. It's still relevant information, and there's no harm in educating people and getting people to just have good internet safety practices. Sometimes when you're a technically literate person, you assume people know things that are obvious to you that aren't, and that's a big point in this channel is educating everybody. I assume everybody knows nothing, specifically people that are falling for scams. If you're more technically adept, you're going to recognize these things. You're probably not going to fall for scams. But this channel is for everybody. It's for the layman. It's for your standard person that just works and doesn't have time to care about the technology, the Wi-Fi they're using when they go to McDonald's, which I think is the vast majority of people. I also talked about VPNs and using a VPN. Everyone in existence has seen an ad for a VPN at this point. I don't think I need to explain too much about it, but basically it encrypts your data so your ISPs can't see it. Anything going back and forth is encrypted. It does add a layer of protection for sure. It's not 100% foolproof from some of these other scams like fake Wi-Fi networks or potentially, I don't know. I never like to say anything's 100% foolproof. It's not. But it can add a layer of protection. Some Wi-Fi networks can actually block VPN usage outright. So it's important to find a VPN that has obfuscation technology, which basically uses a different port, basically hides that it is even a VPN because you can detect VPN usage. So I'm not trying to fearmonger. I'm not trying to scare people. I'm just trying to educate people in the actual realities of Wi-Fi security and don't always trust it. And again, I don't always need to hack into something. I don't need to always break something to get data. I don't think I'm going to be doing videos videos like this too much more often, responding to comments. I think for the most part it's relatively useless. I am going to be putting more receipts and effort into videos going forward to avoid things like this. I'm just going to make, hey, here's my video, here's my receipts, here's my sources, that's it. I don't want to respond. The reason I'm doing it now is because I felt like I could have done a better job. So thank you for watching another episode of Fraud Squad. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it, I'm sure you will. I'm sure, I don't know, I think this got in the algorithm with like tech geeks, and I just got hammered, so maybe this will go better than the last video, I have no idea. We still have our giveaway going on to the end of August. We're giving away merch to 20 subscribers, so make sure you get that in before the end of August. Also, reach out to us. We want your scam stories, so I'll put an email in the description. If you have a scam story you'd like to be featured on an episode with an interview, we did do an interview. I'll put it up somewhere on the screen now. We did an interview with a scam victim. It was awesome. I'd love to hear your stories. The more we can spread the word about what scams are happening, the more people are going to be safe. If you can recognize a scam because you can recall a previous story, you're most likely not to fall for that scam yourself. So we really, really want to hear from you. Check that email out, and you can also just submit a form on our website. I think that's all I have to say. Subscribe if you want. You know, you don't have to. I think views are more important. I mean, subscribing helps my ego a little bit, but you know, I always say I'm very stingy with subscriptions, so I don't take it personally at all. I have to really, really like someone before I subscribe. So I'm hoping in time I can win you over, but at least like the video if you liked it. That's nothing to you. I don't have to show up on your feed ever again. That's a wrap. Thank you.